In this video, we are going to go ahead and we are going to edit our picture in Lightroom and then learn how to sync it. So for our stop action photos, we shot in the studio. All these pictures are going to be relatively the same, so it's really easy to edit one and then sync the settings so they look all exactly the same. When you composite, they need to look and match up in color and value. So in contrast, so here we go. So we're going to take this first image right here. I chose this one because it has the most variety in it. So I have like the glass, I have a splash, I have the ice cubes. So I think that's the one I'm going to do. First things first, the color is off. I always white balance every single picture. What you're going to do is you're going to grab the eyedropper under your basics panel. I have auto dismiss off, so I turn that off so I can select a couple times, and you just click a neutral area. So it says pick a neutral target. So it's either black, white, or gray, whatever you have in your picture. So I can pick the corner here, which you'll see it'll change slightly, but you're neutralizing the color. So that way, instead of that blue cast, now it's a nice gray. When you're done, you can hit done or put your little picker back. You can also do this manually, but why do it manually when you can do it automatically? Next, we're going to take a look at our histogram. We're going to see that we have exposure, and we'll see down below it highlights when I hover. We have shadows, blacks, and we have highlights and whites. I edit looking at the histogram because I want to make sure I have a good range of values and that my picture is not too bright or too dark. Looking at my histogram overall, I can tell my picture is shifted to the left-hand side because there's a big gap over here, meaning my picture is slightly too dark. So I'm going to use my exposure to shift it over pretty close to even. I also have the highlight and shadow indicators on. So if you see the red here, those are specular highlights that are blown out. And we also have the blacks on, which are for shadow clipping. So now what I'm going to do is tweak it a little bit more. So I'm going to drag the whites over so that it's touching the edge. If I go too far, it's going to blow out and you're going to get that red. So basically you can move it down until those little dots disappear. And then I'm going to do the same on the blacks. Too much, so I'm going to bring it down. These might pop back up in a little bit. There we go. You can play with the shadows, so that's going to be how bright or how dark that is. I kind of like it glowy. There we go. And then the highlights are the brightest areas of the picture. So if you go too bright, there we go. So I'm liking how that's looking. Then I'm going to add some texture and clarity because I want this texture to show. So I'm going to go in here and just boost it up a little. If you go too far, it's going to look fake. So I would stay in the 20 plus or minus range. Clarity as well. If you go too crazy, it looks too much. So I would stay in that 20 to maybe 30 range. And then we're seeing a little bit of blue, so we can just go back here, bring the blacks up just a little bit. All right. So the last thing we need to do is we need to straighten our picture. We're going to select the crop tool. One little trick is you can get the angle so it's a little level, and you're going to drag it across. You could also do this manually, but I drag this across, line it up with the horizon, let go. It's going to straighten my picture. I hit done and say that looks pretty good. Once you have your edit the way you like it, I always like to check before and after. So usually you cycle through here. I actually reset the image, so I'm going to go before, after, very much improved. So now that I like this edit, what I want to do is sync the rest of the photos. So I'm going to select them all. So I hold down Shift, click on that one. Now, if you had middle picture selected, you would just hold down the first picture, hold down that one, and then select the picture that you wanted to sync with. This one happens to be at the end, so I know this because it has a plus minus. So notice that this highlight is brighter than the rest. Next, I'm going to hit sync, and then I'm going to go down the settings that I adjusted. So I did clarity, I did texture, I did my basics, my white balance. I also did crop, and I have that selected as well. I didn't do any of these, and I didn't do that. Oop, it says to keep that. Okay, so synchronize.